All right, everybody, welcome to the Soft Cock Week Soft Cocktail Mixer. I'm Michelle Renee. I am the creator of Soft Cock Week, which sounds funny to say that there wasn't one already, but here we are. So this is wrapping up the first annual Soft Cock Week, and we've got a group of cool people here that probably all identify as sex geeks. And we're all professionals in our fields. And we have all created fresh content for this week. So thank you guys for coming. I'm going to have everybody introduce themselves, or coming or not. And that's okay too, as we said on all of our merch. Shout out to my surrogate partner friend, Lou in DC, who came up with the tagline on that because it was great. I'm just going to go around and have everyone introduce themselves that are panelists here today and tell us a little bit about what your contribution was to the week, how you participated. I'm going to start with Ruby. I'm just going to go around my screen. So Ruby Ryder, introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Ruby Ryder, pronouns she, he, she, her, not she, he, she, her. Been a sex educator for 12 years, and my niche, my jam is pegging. So I've definitely had some crossovers into the soft cock area, which we can talk about later. But I have the website peggingparadise.com. I've had that for the last 12 years. And then about 2 years into that journey, I was exploring BDSM, and I identify as a dominant sensual sadist and realized that potentially I was scaring people away who might want to learn about pegging, because I was on my blog writing about beating men, tying them up, and wonderful consensual things like that. So I started the website pegging101.com and copied all of my informational articles over there. And that's without the kink for anybody that doesn't want the kink. I teach free webinars, 3 different ones that all have to do with pegging: beginners, equipment, and advanced. And what else? I participated in Soft Cock Week in the beginning, just in terms of thinking it was an amazing idea that Michelle came up with and trying to help in any way I could to promote and all that. But I've been on a cruise with my sister in Mexico and I got COVID. This is the second time I've been doing a webinar with COVID. I'm feeling much, much better. And there you have it. I came home and the 2 little lines were there, but I'm happy to be here tonight for the closing out of things. And I'm also the person that kind of coordinated the Movember donation thing. Movember is an amazing foundation for anybody that wants to donate. They do so much for men in general, and they just opened up a new avenue of their website that has to do with men who have prostatectomies and life after a prostatectomy, prostate cancer. And there's some really wonderful tools on there. And I'm thrilled because now I have a place to send somebody. I get asked about that periodically. And I'm thrilled to be here in the presence of such amazing sex positive educator professional types.
It's good to have you here, Ruby. I want to add that you recorded a special audio just for this week that's on the website, and you look amazing even with COVID.
Makeup,
right.
Thank you.
All right, Steph.
Greetings. Someone told me something new. Greetings, ladies and gentle femmes. I am Steph Takaya. I am a sex worker. I'm also autistic, so excuse me if I start to meander. I've been a sex worker a little bit. I'm a budding surrogate partner therapist. I'm currently in school in the therapist pipeline because we need more queer therapists in the world. And Ruby, you said something really cool that made me say you're a sensual sadist. I call it a dessert top. Yeah, it just popped in my mind. I had to write it down. But my contribution was I remember when Michelle had this idea and she like bounced it off me when we talk, and I'm like, that's a great idea. That's great. So I've done a lot, and I've done promotions with Rob Rocket, trying to get this out into the ether. And this week I've just been fanboy reposting everything. That's that's the best I can do. But I'm really proud and happy to be here. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah, thanks for all your help on the Twitter. Really appreciate it. Cool. Zach.
Hello and good evening. And as we say down here in Texas, y'all, which kind of takes care of your pronouns. Yeah, my name is Zach Budd. I am a social worker and psychotherapist down in what's now known as Houston, Texas, but was actually stolen from the Atacapa, Akokisa, and Tarankawa communities. I live, love, and work down here in this part of the country, and kind of grew up in this area, as a matter of fact. But way before I went back to grad school and became a professional, big time, social worker or whatever, and got letters behind my name. I was a consent educator, and being involved in the local Houston area polyamory and kink communities, and being called a leader, huge scare quotes, in those communities. I dealt with a lot of people that were having either issues or challenges around consent. And so it's kind of a long story, but I got into teaching consent, quite frankly, because I was researching it at first. That's the geek part of me. But then I heard some conversations about consent that just pissed me off. So I started teaching. I was like, okay, people know so little about this and the understandings are so bad. I just start teaching it. So yeah, that's kind of what I did. And that's kind of how I became known, is in the kind of the sex positive, sex geek world, or what I call the magic world, because I've got my magic job and my muggle job. But yeah, so I have been a consent educator now officially for, this is what, 22, actually going on 6-7 years. I've been polyamorous for about 15 years, and kinky for as long as I can remember. I've always been kind of a twisted fuck. But yeah, I spend a lot of my time now on my day job. I work with an organization that provides services, including therapy services, to victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and even some child abuse. So we do that as well. So my contribution to Soft Cock Week, I feel like it was minimal, but I mean, I was a part of that sort of that soft opening, that first kind of panel discussion where we had a great conversation about our experiences with soft cock, the definitions of it. Came up with some wonderful phrases, because we even talked about the fact that not everybody is comfortable with the word cock. I still love Phoenix's phrase, relaxed dicks. I was playing with some other ones too, just what was it, the flaccid phallus, and a bunch of other things, man. But just coming up with neat phrases and whatnot to talk about that, and being able to share experiences. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity, because it made me think about it. And of course, the discussion around the fact that, penises, particularly factory installed penises, spend most of their existence not hard. And, and yet we just don't talk about that, particularly when it comes to anything having to do with genitalia or sexuality. It's no one went and got medication because their dick was hard. It's usually because it's soft and won't get hard. So it's just kind of a fun kind of thing to participate in and be a part of. I'm glad to have been here for the inaugural sort of soft cock week, and looking forward to doing it again. And yeah, I love the sex positive community, and I love being a part of anything new that we come up with, because we really are kind of on cutting edge. Let's be real, most of the places we live in, I know for sure down here in Texas, people just don't talk about this shit, which is a fucking shame. Really, more people should talk about soft cocks. People really should talk about what I call penises that aren't angry or weaponized. So yeah, it's a magical thing we're doing here. So definitely grateful to Michelle, and like I said, this is Michelle's baby, but I know Phoenix, who also was probably, I'm sure, had a hand in bringing me on board, and just kind of glad to be here. So loving every minute of it. As far as this cocktail couple hours we're having now, I have recently discovered that I'm suffering with sciatica. So if I'm making weird faces, it's because I'm in a lot of pain, but hopefully the bourbon will help. So cheers, everyone.
Well, please take care of yourself, Zach. But I want to say, you were a huge part of the soft opening. So don't minimize that, because That was an amazing event, and it would not have been the same without you there. So, so glad to have you back with us tonight. All right, Phoenix, give it to us.
Oh my. I'm Phoenix Mandel. I'm a certified sexuality educator. I'm certified with AASECT, which is sort of like the AMA for doctors or the APA for therapists, but for sexuality educators and counselors and therapists. So I do a mix of education, direct education, lectures, workshops, curriculum development, professional development, and counseling and coaching type work, working with individuals, couples, larger groups of partners, all that kind of thing. And I work with the full age spectrum across all spectrums of gender and sexuality and etc. So I get to play in lots of different areas. And my relationship to soft cock is both as a professional and as a kind of a two-part personal approach. One part of that personal approach is as someone who has sex and romantic attachment to many penis having folks, and the ways that they are impacted around relaxed stick, or the ways that they are bringing in social baggage, or you know, whatever is occurring around that, and the ways that we can interact with it. So I'll be talking a bit about that. And I also have a personal relationship to having a cock as a genderqueer person for the times that I do set myself up to have that, since I don't have one that's factory installed. So in my gender experience, I am sometimes a penis haver, and I have some feelings about how that occurs in the universe, and we'll be sharing a bit about that. Michelle is absolutely, hands down, bar none, my favorite person to collaborate with. And so I'm so delighted that we've been doing all these little bits and juicy projects, and I hope we'll continue to do lots more in the new year, even though both of us are going to be moving. And that's a big thing, you know. But so that's a bit about me and what I do. My website is just phoenixmandel.com. I'd love to hear follow-up from you. That'll go out in the resources. And this week has been really special. I'm so glad that Michelle created it and invited us in to play with her. And I'm loving reconnecting with and meeting the other educators and collaborators in this. I am definitely looking forward to more big collaborations. I was part of the Soft Cock Soft Opener, which was the first event, and that was really wonderful. I felt like we had some really juicy, fruitful conversation, and Michelle sent an amazing resource follow-up email, which you should check your inbox for, or go to softcockweek.com to check out the resources on that page. And I'll be saying lots more, but just as a little wind up to this intro, because this is our soft cocktail hour, came up with a partner of mine with a couple of punny drink names. The first one is an alcoholic beverage. The second one is designed to be non-alcoholic, although certainly you can add alcohol to it. So I'm going to pop that into the chat again and just let you know the names, because they're too precious not to share. So the alcoholic drink is the Schlong Island iced tea, and the non-alcoholic beverage is the flaccid daiquiri. So those are your two specialty cocktail recipes, which you're welcome to take a boop to go prepare, or another drink or water. And I'm gonna make sure that gets included in the email that goes out following this.
That's a great idea.
I'm sorry, Schlong Island makes my dad joke freaking alarm go absolutely ape shit. So
isn't that amazing? My incredible soulmate partner. I do believe in soulmates. I also believe that we have multiple soulmates. Side note, came up with that. I asked for his help, and he is a really intentional punster. And yeah, perfect.
Wonderful. I think maybe next year we'll do some kind of like a soft cocktail, like like voting block thing for the week or something and have like a soft cocktail competition or something like that. I don't know. I look forward to doing it again with more time. Hi, I'm Michelle Renee. I should introduce myself in case you're not familiar. I am a surrogate partner and professional cuddler and just overall intimacy, hands-on intimacy coach. I work from platonic to erotic. I don't focus so much on the sex. I focus on the connection and how to build intimacy wherever it is on that spectrum. I came up with Soft Cock Week because I was on a couple of interviews, and it comes up in my work a lot. I get really sad hearing from mainly cis men say like, fix my penis. And sometimes it's because they've got, like traditional erectile, what's the word we're going with instead of dysfunction?
Challenges.
Yeah, I like to use something with a D, like dissatisfaction, whatever it is, right? And sometimes it's just the traditional, but sometimes it was as simple as, I think they've watched a lot of porn and they thought their penis was supposed to be hard the entire time through sex, and that's just not realistic. And so I threw this out there enough times that a few people, many of them are in this room right now, said you should do it. And here we are. So that's really cool. I even dressed up for the occasion. I'm not going to show you my whole dress, but I wore a dress. Phoenix is wearing their Soft Cock Week hoodie, which is also available over on the website. Yes, I have a mug.
I need one of those.
I have a big sticker on my water bottle because got to make sure people at the gym can see it. And yeah, proceeds after we cover our overhead is going to go to Movember. Thank you, Ruby, so much for your help in that, for sure.
By the way, I just want to share super quick, since you
Yeah.
mentioned the merch, there is both a full length regular standard hoodie, and for those of you who live in warmer environments like Southern California, for example, there's this one is a crop hoodie. So I just wanted to make the point that there's something for everything.
There's so much over there. Oh my gosh, the project it was to get all that stuff up, even though it all has the exact same logo stuff on it. It was a process. It was a Sunday project for sure. What else did I want to say? So what have I participated in this week? Okay, let's see here. Before the week started, I did a great interview with Emily Otto. She is a business coach, and so I was her first interview for her podcast. Her podcast has been around for a little bit, but I was the first time she actually interviewed someone. So that was kind of interesting because that's not my normal crowd. Like when I'm on a podcast, it's usually some kind of sex related podcast. And so we had a really great conversation, and that is linked on the website if you want to take a listen. We do not talk all about business, but we did talk a little bit about what was my motivation in doing this, what was the return on investment, and why would someone want to do something like this that doesn't really pay them anything, right? I'm not making any money off of this. So but I will tell you what did happen. I hit a bucket list item for sure during this process. So I will take that as payment enough. Fast forward, and let's see here. A couple weeks before Soft Cock Week, I just randomly tweeted out to Dan Savage on a Tuesday morning, hey, want to talk about Soft Cock Week? And I shit you not, I was in the gym in the locker room getting ready to leave, waiting on my roommate. And I checked my email, and there is a message that says I have a DM from fake Dan Savage. And I wanted to scream out loud in the locker room. It was like, some people here know I was really excited to be on Guys We Fucked, which is a pretty popular podcast. And at that point, the biggest thing I had been on. And to have Dan Savage reach out was like, just a whole nother thing for me. So it took a little bit of maneuvering. We ended up recording the Thursday before this week. And unfortunately, it didn't make it on the podcast. And I tried messaging him to find out if it's going to be on next week. I guess better late than never is a thing. But I talked to Dan Savage. Like, we shared moments together. We actually talked twice that day, recorded 2 different pieces. And I don't know if it was too late to get it into the show. I don't know if something happened with the recording. I haven't heard any updates, but I'm on his radar. He says he wants me back to talk about cuddling. If nothing else, I am just thrilled that he knows who I am at this point. And that was a real highlight for me. It would have been cool. It would have been so cool to have him involved in this. I actually asked him when I had him on the call if he was available tonight to join us, and he actually looked at his calendar. I was like, I was going to shit my pants if he actually said yes. But even if it was for like a brief cameo, it would have been pretty cool. But we did the soft opener on Sunday night. And what I found about that was really, I think what I found myself kind of reevaluating if I'm too excited about soft cock. We were hit with, and I don't say hit in like I was surprised, but there was definitely a lot of feelings on that call. And I want to be mindful of that there's a big grieving process in this. And I know I can come in really enthusiastic, and I have had clients tell me that they feel better about their soft penis because of how enthusiastic I am about it. And so I don't want to not be that person, but I also want to have space for the fact that not everybody's there yet. And I just want to give them all a giant hug, because I don't have a penis. I don't know what it's like to go through that change physically. And so many feelings for that group of people that we had on that call that night. But it was a really lovely event. Phoenix was there, Zach was there, and then Jojo Bear, who's not here tonight, was there. And we just had, I thought, just a really great group. Then Monday night, I was on with Kendra Holiday, who is another intimacy professional out of St. Louis, and she runs Sex Positive St. Louis, and we did a Zoom call together. And Ruby, I think people could register now and join. I wouldn't be surprised. I have it set to auto approve, so it shouldn't be a problem. Yeah. So Kendra and I had a lovely conversation, which is also available on the website right now. I put up the audio for it. I'll disclose that I shared a pretty personal story towards the end of it, and had some second thoughts on whether I wanted to actually cut it out of the recording or leave it there. And after talking with my partner, we decided to leave it in, and I think it's authentic. And people that know me in real life know that I'm just pretty straight shooter, and I share lots, and I share lots with my clients, and personal and professional is a little intertwined for me because of my work is so personal to me that I don't mind that overlap. But I know for some professionals that is a very big wall that needs to be built, and I don't need to do that in my work, thankfully. And so I take advantage of that to some extent to say let me show you how I've been doing the same work that my clients are doing, because I share personally what's going on in my life. So anyways, so we had a great talk on Monday night, and then I just chugged away at my week and tried to share all the things I could. And there's some stuff over on Twitter. Recovering Man, I think is the name of the blog. Ruby, is that correct?
I believe it's recoveringman.com. Mish Middleton. I came across an interview he did with Cam Frazier, and Mish's story is basically what happened to him after he had prostate cancer, but it is so all-encompassing, his story about it, because he talks about his masculinity, his relationship with his wife, how it all felt, what kind of treatment he had, how he dealt with it, what he discovered other pleasure avenues were, all kinds of different things. He speaks very eloquently about it. So I reached out to both Cam Fraser and Mish Middleton to ask if I could put a link to that up for the resources here. And they both said yes. And Mish is very excited about everything we're doing here. He is in Australia, so I think that's why he's not here.
That is exactly why he's not here, because the invitation was definitely put out to him. And
Yeah.
there's just been a lot of great content on Twitter. Again,
Thankfully, the
thanks.
recording will be able to show up for everybody. I just wanted to put in really quickly, Michelle, before I forget. You know, all of us have participated in this week and been excited about this week and worked on this week, but for all of you viewers now and all of you viewers in the future, Michelle has done the most work, quite a lot of hours that involved both professional work and tremendous emotional, temporal, financial resources. So as you view this, as you reflect on the week, as you notice how important this conversation could be to other areas in your life, please, please, please take a few minutes to send Michelle a lovely note about what this week either meant to you or means to you for the future. That's an invitation to everyone who sees this.
Thank you, Phoenix. Can we take a moment to like cheers if you have a drink? If you have one, if you don't, you can pretend.
I'm gonna cheers my empty mug, but then I'm gonna go disappear because Steph inspired me about the hot toddy. I love a hot toddy, and I think I'm gonna go put that in this mug.
Cheers to soft cock. Thank you for being here. Love you all.
Relaxed dicks everywhere.
Yay.
You are valid and good all on your own.
You are. Yes, Zach. Was it Zach or Steph?
I got it. I wanted to mention something that I forgot to in my introduction, but you brought up in your introduction about how most cis men have this vision of how the parts are supposed to work. As a sex worker with erectile dysfunction, right? I have a strap on with various accoutrements to use it. You know, I may or may not have gotten it from Ruby's site. Plug. I made
the commission off of it though, just to be clear.
Be careful saying plug during Soft Cock Week. Just saying.
Now I'm excited. Anyways, it took a lot for me to get to the fact that, you know what, I'm okay with who I am. It's okay to, you know, if your dick doesn't work, store-bought's okay. And to get into that frame of mind really opened up my sexuality. It gave me more openness and able to receive and also able to give, because I wasn't under the pressure of I have to perform. I don't have, hey, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, if you can't drive to work, I can take the bus.
I also want to add, just separately from your experience that you're sharing, for me, one of the precious things about this week has been really focusing on that even when your dick is relaxed, it's working. It's doing a lot of things. It may not be working in the exact way you want it to at that moment, but it is.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I was getting there. Thank you for bringing it up, because
I got impatient. I'm so excited about the relaxed dick. I'm sorry. I love a hard dick too, but you know, the relaxed dick is special all on its own.
The orgasm from a soft cock, from a relaxed dick, is unlike anything you'll ever experience. It really is. It really is. Learning how to be okay with yourself for prostate play, learning that, hey, it's there for a reason and it works. I understand the trials and tribulations of it. You know, I was married for 21 years, you know, wife, 2.5 kids, house, white picket fence, right? Wasn't for me. But when I started having problems in my 30s, the pressure was on me because I have to perform. I have to do all the work, right? Doesn't work that way. So I am very happy and humbled that Michelle asked me to be here for this. So, because it gives me a chance to show that, to share my experience firsthand, that, you know, having a relaxed penis, thank you for that, is okay. And it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. I really appreciate having someone here who can model firsthand the idea of using a strap-on, because I mean, Ruby has talked about this a lot, and I'm hoping Ruby will share with us kind of the history of talking about this concept of cis men using strap-ons. Do you want to talk about that, Ruby?
Yeah, I'd be totally happy to. And that the things I'm going to share are actually some of the things that came to my mind when Michelle approached me with this. And I want to echo what Phoenix said about how so much of the energy and thrust, if you will, behind all of this came from Michelle. And she's done so much here that, you know, we're all just kind of in awe. I think in the beginning, Michelle said to me, well, you know, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, and we'll just see what happens. Maybe it'll fly, maybe it won't. And then all of a sudden, it was a little overwhelming practically, because Dan Savage and this and that. And yeah, so it's wonderful beginnings is what it is. So some of the things that came through my mind when she asked me about this is, yeah, I absolutely have some things about soft cock. And one of the first things in relation to Dan Savage that I recalled was, I was listening to one of his podcasts, and a woman called in and said, you know, great relationship, blah, blah, blah. He takes about 10 minutes to come, and I need about 15 minutes to have my orgasm. So what do I do? Right. And he said, well, you could do this or this or this or this, or, you know, he could just wear a strap on. And then he went on to say, cis men tend to freak out about strap-ons, but you know what? Gay men don't, lesbians don't, you know. So that was in my
Gender
head.
diverse folks who need one for an occasion also don't.
There are many, and when I slip into gender binaries, I do fairly well when I write and things like that. But yeah, it's all inclusive. So one of the things that stayed in my head was that, and then I was on the Reddit sex subreddit. And for anybody who doesn't know, Reddit is a huge forum board, and Reddit sex has like 2-point-some million people. And there was a penis owner on there who was saying, you know, can't quite last. And so I put the suggestion there about, well, you know, with respect, you could try a strap-on. Oh my God, I got flamed. And that's where I understood then, as a non-penis owner, I started at least to a little bit understand how tender that can be. Oh my God. You know, you don't understand how hurtful and cruel this is, you know, where you're asking to replace our cocks. And I'm like, no, that's not what I meant. So that sunk in and stayed for a few years, and then it kept percolating. And part of what happened with that is I had a person who listened to my podcast. I do podcasts as well. I've been doing this since 2012. He wrote me a letter and said, you know, I had this experience with a strap-on. I got a strap-on and I tried it with my girlfriend. Simply out of curiosity, he tried it. And he said, oh my God, it was an epiphany, because for the first time ever, he did not have to multitask. He said, for the first time ever, he could put 100% of his focus on his partner. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. And he wrote so eloquently about it. And that's one of the things that I share in the recording that I made for Soft Cock Appreciation Week. So all that percolated some more. And I finally wrote an article, which I will put the link to in the chat in just a bit here. The case for cock owners wearing a strap-on. And I figured I'd have a little bit more friendly audience if I put it up on FetLife first, fetlife.com, a kink site. And it got 1,300 likes in 2 weeks. And I was also really open to anybody else's ideas about, here's another thing you can do. And I got a few of them. I got at least 4 or 5 more that I added on to the list that I had. But there's a whole bunch of things that it can offer. And, you know, clearly I've had a fair amount of experience, being as my niche is pegging, with wearing cocks and enjoying that I can change them, and enjoying that I can give my partners a different experience just by changing what I have. But I'm well aware of the sensitivity of, I've never had to worry. I just strap it on and it works, So all of that kind of came together when I did the article. And the other thing that it crosses over into is, for anybody who wasn't aware, with cock owner anal receptive play, it is not at all unusual for it to short circuit the ability to have an erection. And in my beginner's class, that's one of the
Temporarily,
things
I just want to throw in that's only temporary that happens.
Thank you. And in my beginner's class, what I teach is some receivers will have erections that come and go. Some receivers will be hard the whole time, usually not very many, a few. And then a fair amount of you will not be able to get it up, no matter, if your life depended on it. And I reassure both parties, because the receivers get all freaked out, especially if they've never had any kind of problems with an erection before. And they're like, oh my God. And sometimes they're like, I knew this whole ass thing wasn't a good idea. It broke my dick. Like, no. So yes, temporary is well spoken there. So I reassure them. But then the other part of it is so equally important, because it is the givers who, many of them have been trained. If they're not a cock owner, many of them have been trained or automatically tend to look for an erection as a sign that their partner's having a good time. And I said, please take that and throw it out the window, because it has no bearing here. And it combines with, when you're a brand new beginner in pegging, there is a steep learning curve to strap one on, a very steep learning curve. Especially if you have never had a cock, just that whole roll of the hips, there's so many different things to learn, that there can be insecurities. This is awkward. This feels weird. I don't know if I'm doing it right, and then if their partner doesn't have an erection, they're like, I knew it. I'm a failure. I can't do this, And it's just so not true. I'm like, use your words. Okay. If you want to know if your partner's having a good time during pegging, ask them. As a matter of fact, if you want to know if your partner's having a good time during sex, no matter whether you're doing pegging or any other kind of sex, use your words. Don't look for the erection. That's not the sign. That's not it. So
Check-ins are so great. I want to, Ruby, I want to borrow from your expertise a little bit for all of our listeners. I'm curious if you have any tips around the kinds of strap-ons and cock sleeves that are available to dick havers, that their cock goes inside of. If you had any thoughts on like things to think about in terms of seeking fit, or like a brand you love, or just like a little more specific on that. That I know lots of people wear it not on their dick, but there can be a whole other aspect that some folks find really enriching when your dick goes inside of it. And I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on that.
My thoughts are, those are amazing, but unfortunately, that's not my area more of expertise. It's the strap it on, but your dick is not inside it. That I'm really well versed in all the dildos, all the harnesses, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I see pictures and people are going, what toy is this? And I'm like, that's a so-and-so. But sleeves, I'm more familiar with in terms of, let's say you have a dildo that is the perfect length, the perfect shape, but it's too firm for the receiver. You put a nice soft silicone sleeve on it. Those are the types of things that I'm more informed about, but there's a bunch of them out there.
That's totally fair. I didn't mean to put you on the spot for an outside expertise thing. I will say, related to what you just said about the sleeves, that I also find things like the Tenga masturbation eggs, which are just very simple silicone egg-shaped sleeves that have different textures inside of them, and you can get half a dozen eggs for like super cheap. They're great. Highly recommend.
You want to see
Those
one?
things are fucking phenomenal.
Yeah,
I got them.
Yeah, Steph,
I
grab
legit
one. I
have
think
a
that'd be
dozen
great.
Tenga eggs under my bed right now. Not even playing. They were
Awesome.
a gift, and then I kept saying, "Man, I like these," and they became a gift again. I also have one of those cock sleeves that you were talking about, Phoenix. But yeah, no, those things are that, a little bit of lube, and oh yeah, they're reusable. And then learning new ways to use your Tenga egg, like turn it inside out and put it on the end of a Hitachi, and use it with your partner, is fucking amazing. So yeah.
That's a great
And
use. And
someone just said eggs with your sausage, and yeah,
Kristen,
I'm here for it.
Ice cube, please.
so one of the uses I wanted
Ice
to
cube,
bring in
please.
super quickly is just related to what Ruby said. I also, when I have my cock on, or when I'm doing some kind of strap-on play with someone, like to take a Tenga egg and put it around the base of that cock, so that the impact between the base of the either my dick or a strap-on toy is somewhat cushioned, and I have a little bit more protection against my skin. And so that's an additional use of a Tenga egg type thing that I wanted to flag for people while we're talking about strap-ons. And Steph, I'm so excited to see what you brought.
Show us.
This is the silicone egg sleeve, and I don't know if it's going to be able to do it. Here's a safety note to take care of your toys, especially ones that are fleshy. You put cornstarch on them, right? But I don't know if you can see how it's textured. See how it's textured? Works great. It's fun by yourself, with people, a person, and I now have cornstarch everywhere, but it's great. And one thing I want to plug about Ruby is that the harness I got gives room for my penis to go in. So if it decides to work, I can just whoop, hey, it's showtime, and go to town. And just a quick side note, Michelle, there are some questions in here I definitely want to address. So let me know when that's a good time to talk about them in the chat.
I want to say real quick, Steph, did you have any recommendations about equipment that you like, since you do actually do this? Like,
Lilo is my friend. I love me a Lilo. There are attachments for Hitachis that you put your sleeve in. They go over the top of the bulb, and you put your penis in. Those are great. It works great hard or soft. Sleeves are great. The vibrating cock rings that are they're disposable. 1 or 2 uses. It's all you need. Wouldn't recommend a second use, but one's good.
I love this stuff. I was actually referring to strap-on tools.
Oh, strap-on. So any
Focus, Steph, focus.
Thank you. For strap-on tools, pretty much anything that has a suction cup on it that I can use. I have from short, skinny 3 inches to, well, I'm not going to get into my size queen stuff, but it's the ability to, if you're being introduced to it, to have something that's, for some reason, erect penises are threatening. A dildo that doesn't have a penis feature on it seems to be less intimidating. I don't know why, but I like dick. That's right. I like vulvas. I like everything. But if it's not intimidating, that's my recommendation to come in. As for a company, I run the gambit. Whatever looks good. I just ordered my rainbow dildo last week. So.
But you haven't used one that you would slide inside of?
Not a sleeve. No. The sleeves I use are like the pocket pussy type of thing.
I'm saying, like, you don't have a hollow dildo that you use for strap-on. Okay, that's what I was curious.
So when it comes to stuff like that, I don't have any experience in. Usually it's either on or off, and I have seen people in the kink community that will, like, for the degradation things, you put it in there and that's what you're screwing me with, that type of thing. But I have not used something that I would put my penis into to do that. It's either it's either. Thank you for being clear. I will go off on.
I know you will. I'll direct traffic. It's fine.
So I dropped my link into the chat for that article, but one of the points I mean, if you want to know all the different things you can do with the strap-on as a cock owner, you're totally welcome to peruse that article, because I can list them all down. But I think one of the most important points that I like to make is that, oh my gosh, everyone always, not everyone, it is just really common to default to, well, it's, it's a longer and wider one, it's got more girth, it's got more length. Good Lord, are you kidding me? It's different. It is different. What if you have a really wide one and your partner can only take it for so long? You can use a narrower one and go longer. What if you have a really long one and your partner gets a little tired of having their cervix hammered, or maybe their rectosigmoid junction, pushed up against? You can do a shorter one, and you can do a curved one. You can do a textured one. I mean, the beauty of a strap-on is that you can make that experience so many different things. And if there's a curve in it, you can point that anywhere you want, up to the area that people call G-spot, which is not really a spot, or to the prostate, So yeah, there's so many different things, but it is, I just want to push against the idea that it's a cruel replacement. I think what it is it's an enhancement, and it can open up your world so amazingly to different experiences, whether you have a cock that is able to become erect or not, So,
I mean, I think for, if I'm pegging my partner, it is incredibly intimate. It doesn't change that intimacy because it's not my bio cock, right? Like it's about the connection, and you have numerous tools to use to participate in that sexual connection. You may use no tools. You may not use any insertion. You may, dabble on the buffet of all the different ways that we have pleasure. We have pleasure all over our bodies. And to be, really, really focused on that, I'm sorry that that's the way that the world has been for so long. It's time that we start to expand what pleasure looks like.
Absolutely.
A soft penis might be the thing that helps you take that step to expand that world.
Yep. Let me give a different personal experience I had. I had a stroke in November of 2019. Nothing worked. Absolutely nothing. So the ability to use a device that helped with the intimacy between my partner and myself was huge. That's what really hammered it home for me, that my dick was not the end all be all of the intimacy. It's not it. The intimacy is between the gray matter, right? Touch, right? I've learned a lot since then. I've come a long way into feeling again, and to learn better tools. But yeah, it's if you've got medical, I don't want to use the word trauma, that's too extreme, medical issues, the ability to say, I want to have this with you, I need some help, let's do this. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Well, and as a woman who is not as interested in penetration as I was when I was much, much younger, I'm focused on so many different things that an erection is not that important to me. My strap-on is. That's what's become very important to me. And more than that, I don't know, these days I tend to view sex as an adventuresome, relaxed exploration of each other's bodies to find out what kinds of pleasure we can give each other. That's the way I look at it. And every once in a while, a hard dick is part of that. And sometimes it's not. And sometimes the hard dick is the silicone one I've got strapped around me. So yeah, not everybody needs a hard dick.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think we talked about it on Monday that, a, relaxed dick or a soft penis can be looked at as an opportunity to try other things and other forms of intimacy. And it's funny because you mentioned earlier, Ruby, you were talking about, Dan Savage, and I think it was Dan that said that, cis men have this, fear or tend to be terrified of strap-ons. And my first thought was to be that guy that says not all cis men, but because the reality is, you know what? We really ought to just normalize cis men enjoying prostate play. I mean, for fuck's sake, it is an intense, glorious, damn near fucking religious experience. And this is coming from someone whose first experience with any sort of prostate stimulation was literally a consent violation, which is a story I can tell later if anybody really gives a shit. But the reality is, I figured out there was another avenue to pleasure that I had not known about before. And I considered myself a sex geek when I was but a wee pervy pup, because I was just one of those people that it's always the quiet ones you got to watch out for. I was one of those ones that just wanted to learn, and I knew a lot more about sex and sexuality because a lot of it was self-taught, because I did what we called research back then, which was going to the fucking library and looking stuff up. So, but realizing that if you have a soft penis and it doesn't, operate in the story I told Monday, because of some diagnoses I got as far as that basically officially declared me as neurodiverse and medications that I was on, I had to tell my partners, hey, I don't know what's going to happen when I start taking these meds, but there's a chance that something can happen. It is a side effect that may occur. And then when I did start to have side effects, and it was actually anhedonia, so it wasn't that I wasn't getting hard, is that I was getting hard and it was taking me longer to climax. One of my partners flat out laughed. She was like, I don't see a fucking problem. But another one of mine kind of told me, and she's somebody that has some other physical disabilities, and she kind of said, hey, babe, I don't have a problem with that. Just do me a favor. Don't keep pounding on me just because you haven't had an orgasm yet. And I was like, well, no, I wouldn't do that. I mean, we can communicate. And there are other ways for us to enjoy intimacy. And that's what most of my partners kind of said. There are so many other things we can do. For fuck's sake, give your dick a rest. Let's find something else to do. And, and if that means prostate play, if that means pegging, because prostate pegging, again, I feel like cis men who go through their entire sexual lives and don't experience those at least once, it's kind of like fucking spinach or Brussels sprouts. Try it before you decide you don't like it, right? I mean, and maybe twice, because you can literally have a bad experience, but not because it's bad, but because that partner you were with was bad or the situation wasn't right. So, try it multiple times. But, I feel like cis men that go through their entire sexual lives and don't experience those things, God, you're leaving so much fucking pleasure on the table, which, as somewhat of a hedonist, that's kind of a fucking travesty. I mean, that's as close to blasphemy as I probably get, is just not trying something because of some fucking stigma about your manhood. God, let's please stop referring to it as manhood. I hate euphemisms for genitalia. I really do. But, it's just so much of masculinity, and let's be honest, it's machismo, which is all toxic, is wrapped up in an erect penis. And for fuck's sake, let the thing relax. Do something else, but yeah, let's see it as an opportunity to try something else. And I'm grateful for the times when I had amazing sex and didn't have to get an erection to do so. That's pretty fucking awesome to me. And I think that it opens up so many opportunities for all kinds of interactions. By the way, quick side note, I was also inspired by Stefan to get a toddy. Right now, I'm terrified to boil water because I've made a quick sort of sort of left earlier because the power grid went down briefly because of that world famous Texas power grid. By the way, people, elections matter. For fuck's sake, I wish we could get rid of this goddamn governor. But anyway, so yeah, my power went down for about 30 seconds. And of course, that meant it took 20 minutes to get back online. But so yeah, I'm just going to keep on drinking the bourbon straight because as much as I would like to make some tea and pour some bourbon into it, I really don't want to turn on another appliance at the moment. Although I don't know what that means for a vibrator later. We'll figure it out. I got batteries. It's good.
I was like, get rechargeable, then you don't have this issue, right? I want a couple of things. I have something I want to talk about. I want to talk about prostate massage more because it is literally one of my favorite things. But I just want to read a comment that came in through the Q&A because I don't think our attendees can't read these. I don't believe. I'm guessing. I just want to read it and then I want to have a quick conversation about something that I thought of when I was reading it. So the statement says, for a lot of people who suffer long-term stress, the pelvic floor can impact the penis and anus in a lot of ways, from limiting flow of waste to preventing blood flow to the penis to even preventing climax. That said, how great are vibrators? Just for the whole body, nipple, face, neck, shoulders, backside, PC, groin, muscles, feet, etc. Yes. You know, go check out pelvic floor PTs, right? Like there is a medical industry out there that I don't know how often they treat erectile issues. I don't know a whole lot about pelvic floor therapists. I know I had a client one time that said, "Oh my God, Michelle, my back pain is gone from seeing a pelvic floor therapist." So like keep your team wide and varied, right? Because you don't know where it's coming from, which takes me back to prostate massage because all those muscles can be accessed through the anus. And Ruby knows so much about all the different things that happen through the anus. We have long conversations about vagus nerve and all these things, right? This is what Ruby and I do when we get on a phone call for 3 hours is talk science shit. But anyway.
Oh, to be a fly on that wall.
We've recorded a few of our conversations. You can go and find me. I don't know what, I have a list of the podcast episodes. I think you can find them all on meetmichellerenee.com if you ever are curious about listening to. I'm pretty famous over there for my pegging gangbang that I talked about extensively. Steph, have I not told you this story?
Okay, hold
No,
up. My mind is in the process of exploding. Give me a minute.
No, it was the dad joke that just got that posted, which was Viva Las Vegas.
Viva Las Vegas. That's good. Is it Kai? Kai, you're on it tonight.
All the reading I've done about polyvagal theory in the last 3 days. Good God. Okay, I'm just Viva. Okay, that's fantastic.
I teach all about this in my advanced webinar. The only reason that I know anything about the vagus nerve was when I used to be back on the evil book, which I refuse to call the M name, whatever. I'm not on the book anymore because I'm a sex educator and they're fucked up with censorship. But when I was on the evil book, I was connected to a wonderful person in our community, Janet Hardy, who she co-wrote The Ethical Slut. There's so much she's done for our sex positive world and she knows so much. And so it was just a sidelong comment that she made on Facebook. And she said, you know, you stimulate the vagus nerve. One of the effects is a really powerful anti-inflammatory response in the body. And you can stimulate the vagus nerve really well through the ass, through the anus. And I'm like, what? And I started studying it. And it blew my mind, all the information that I found out about it, to the point where when I taught one of my webinars recently, it can reduce depression. And this attendee to my webinar said, oh my gosh, this explains a lot because I'm a veteran, I have PTSD. Every once in a while, I just need to use the big toys. And there's so much there. There is so much there to explore and so much pleasure. And anyone who doesn't know this, most cock owners who have experienced an orgasm with concurrent penile stimulation and prostate stimulation pretty much across the board report that orgasm as being roughly 10 times as powerful as a normal one. And once again, I was on one of the Reddit boards, this is one of the main ones, and they're saying, yeah, that's not true. It was one of those exit only people. And then I said, well, go over to Reddit straight pegging and ask. And I said, no, you know what? I know you're not going to. So I'm going to go ask that question. Like, 20 different cock owners got on there and went, oh my God, at least 10 times. It's pretty amazing that when you involve that. But I think one of the more amazing things for me is that penetration can be really intense. And cock owners don't understand that until they get penetrated sometimes. And it can be really eye-opening. It can feel, in my opinion, pleasurable. Anal penetration requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is once again in one of those lists of man box toxic things that cock owners have been trained out of, allowing being able to express and feel. So that is one of the ways that pegging can really be life-changing for some cock owners. Of course, but you know, it's my jam. I think it can save the world.
I mean, so can cuddling. We all got our
Right.
vices,
Yeah.
right?
But boys aren't allowed to be vulnerable, whether it be cuddling, sexual, explaining your feelings, going to fucking therapy, even going to the doctor. All of those are considered stigmas because you're a wussy little bitch. And I'm sorry, I'm talking really bad about toxic masculinity right now, which is one of the things that severely pisses me off, like more than most things, because I see it so much. And again, I work with people who are victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. And my God, it drips with toxic masculinity. And if some of these people could be a little bit more vulnerable in the slightest ways, there'd be so much less damage done in the world. But yeah, it's difficult. So yeah, I'm a firm believer that more cis men should totally get not just pegged or just try it, get fucking railed, like have trouble walking later, just because because you need that experience. Otherwise, you have nothing to base it on. You just know you don't like it. And the men that I've consulted with and try to have conversations about this stuff with, who just don't understand how it can be pleasurable, and it's like, have you fucking tried it? Well, no, but okay, then just stop.
Go
Exit,
home.
exit the conversation.
Just stop. Yeah.
Go home
Find a
and
person
get
you love and
some
trust.
lube.
Yeah.
Even
Get you a
even by
bunch of lube.
yourself, just by
Right, yeah.
yourself, go explore it, right? That's Ruby's first rule, right?
Well, one of the things I wanted to jump in and point out is that despite there being all kinds of things posted on the internet, firsthand accounts and things of whatever it is, getting the blowjob, the finger goes up the ass, and the angels sing, and oh my God, where's this been all my life? Stuff like that happens. There are also prostate owners who, when something is in there for the first time, they're like, meh, just feels like I have to take a crap, man. So what I encourage those prostate owners to do is to persist just a little bit before you make your decision, because sometimes it takes a bit to connect up those wires of pleasure. And if you have a butt plug or a prostate stimulator, things like that, that you can put in there while you are doing PIV, meaning penis and vagina, getting a blowjob, jerking off, sometimes that's what it takes to finally allow that part of your body to go, oh, there's a whole different type of pleasure here. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away. So just want to point that out.
It reminds me of Waking Up the Hands from Betty Martin. And I don't know how she'd feel about me connecting these two things, but it's the idea that we have to train our brain to wire the pleasure center there, right? Like I had a client recently that has a new penile implant, right? And there's only one part of his penis that is feeling a lot of pleasure right now. And he knows, at least, and this is, he's like, I know this is just the beginning of my penis starting to come back online as these nerves start to get rewired. And that's the beauty of our bodies, is that we do have the opportunity to have some of this stuff rewire for us. It just takes a little bit of patience.
Ruby, you literally just described my first experience with prostate stimulation. It was one of those things where, I was getting a blowjob, whatever, things were great. And literally, I will never forget this. All of a sudden, the pleasure level went from, on a scale of 1 to 10, from like an 8 to about a 35. And I had no idea why. Had one of those universe creating, orgasms that literally adjusted my spine, and sat there breathlessly saying, what the fuck just happened? And then I felt the finger come out. I was like, oh, okay, that was unexpected. We didn't talk about that. And then had that whole conversation, had to debrief that. But by the way, I'm not saying it was bad. Just next time, let me know that's what you're going to do, and that's the consent educator in me, right? I'm like, listen, that was fucking phenomenal. And I would love to do that again. I would also know that's going to happen ahead of time, if that's okay. So, but yeah, that literally was you just described it, like you summarized it. It was truly one of those watershed moments.
When I have a client and they find out that I really love prostate massage and they haven't tried it or they're not into it, they get that look of worry on their face, like I'm just going to force it on them. And I always say, like, I will never, ever, ever enter you without you telling me you want me to, first of all, not even me asking if I can, but you're going to have to verbally state that you're ready for me to enter you before I ever do anything like that. Because that look of horror, because they see, like, I've got clients that say how, I'm so excited about soft cock. I'm also so excited about prostate play. Like, it's just another one of my, specialties, whatever you want to call it, right? And so I just
One of your delights, Michelle, one of
one
your
of my
delights.
delights.
It's your
One of my
wheelhouse.
delights.
It's your jam.
My
It is where you rock
wheelhouse.
and roll. Yeah.
That look on their face, because there is somebody out there that will do exactly what you had happen to you, Zach. And let's everybody on this call, please, if you're listening later, always get affirmative consent.
I'm still shocked at people on Reddit who say, well, your partner isn't into ass play. Just, maybe when you're giving them a blowjob, just sort of, sneak it in there. I'm like, no gorilla ass play. It's not okay. Oh my gosh.
Nothing should ever be snuck into someone's anus. Let's just be real. And I have literally heard of gay men who will do that to other men. And it's like, do you want somebody to just sort of use stealth to enter you? Like, I don't understand that. But it's fascinating, that you say, Michelle, that they get that look on your face when they hear that you're into that, because that sort of paralyzing fear is literally oh shit, it is possible this person may try and penetrate me. And that's a problem, because that is never allowed to happen, or else I forever lose my, I don't know, Y chromosome. I don't know what the fuck the thinking is, as far as, again, toxic masculinity. It really doesn't make sense to me. But it's one of those things that, oh shit, this is somebody that might actually possibly in a universe down the road penetrate me, and suddenly that's a fucking problem. And you have to suddenly make yourself less scary by saying, I am never ever going to creep up behind you, knock you out with chloroform, and then have you wake up with a freshly fucked ass. I mean, the fact that you have to explain that to people because it is somehow terrifying that they may ever be entered, again, blows me away, which is why I would love to normalize this stuff so much more. Masculine men are allowed to. It's God. I was on that horrible Bluebird site that I should really get off of, but what else am I going to do? I don't watch the news anymore. And there was somebody there who was a sex worker and is a content creator who posted something about normalizing male cuckolds who like pegging. And the responses that she got from people calling him gay, not a real man, and I was just like, Jesus, God, this is such a fucking toxic society. I mean, it's not just sex negative; it is just anti-pleasure, damn near. And well, no, not damn near. It pretty much is. And yeah, again, leaving so much pleasure on the table for reasons that do not make sense in any universe or in any debate. So yeah,
I find it funny that when you have the toxic cis men and you talk about ass play, all of a sudden they understand consent.
I also want to add, there is a tremendous range of experience in life, not just in sex, but I'm going to focus on the sex bit here for a moment, because that's my jam. Intimacy and relationship and other things, but you get it. Where we are initially trepidatious or uninterested or have sort of a soft limit on, where we think we generally don't want to do, but there might be some circumstance or some person with whom we're willing to check it out. Not hard limits, not things you're a hell no, never to, but things that like just don't necessarily grab you by the shirt collar and pull you into the bedroom, or come to you on your own as your own fantasy, where having partners who have this interest, fetish, whatever it is, and our enjoyment of their enjoyment, or our seeing it through their eyes, helps it to become accessible to us and interesting to us and our own thing. And this isn't like some warning of, oh, be careful about trying the butt stuff because you might like it and then it'll be your butt stuff. This is actually an invitation as you're exploring, particularly, you know, for the purposes of this topic, different things you could do with a relaxed dick, or things you could do when your dick is relaxed if you don't want it to be at that moment. To practice a little bit more open-mindedness about and a little bit more flexibility around. And, you know, you can do this with partners in a safe place. Say, hey, I don't know how I'm going to feel about this, or this doesn't immediately occur to me as my jam, but I'm in an exploratory mode, or but I'm really committed to your pleasure and I see how into it you are. And to just use that bolster of partner enthusiasm to let yourself try a bigger range of things. So I just wanted to throw that in the complexity of how we talk about consent or how we talk about enthusiastic consent. Consent is also informed, and part of being informed with consent is trying a range of things and seeing how they go. So that's just an invitation that I really wanted to share with everybody here.
Yeah, that brings up the topic of lab time, right? Taking an evening, let's say, I'm better in the afternoon. Don't put me in the evening or I'm probably just going to be like, sorry, can we just cuddle? But give me a noon space, maybe even morning, where we can just say, hey, there's some stuff I want to try. I don't know if I'm going to like it, but can we poke around at some different things and just see how it goes? Like, it doesn't have to go perfectly. And there's going to be things that you're like, wow, I didn't know I was I was going to be as into that as I was. And there's going to be other things you're like, man, I thought I was really going to like that. And it's just not really doing it for me this time. Maybe we can try it again another time. Like, I'm a firm believer in like giving it a couple tries before you write something off. But like, you know, in the kink world, right? I can't come up, I can't tell you if somebody says to me, would you like to try this? I have aphantasia. I don't have a fantasy world. Like, I have to go, I don't know, but I'm game to try it. And so I'm that experimentalist that can't decide if I'm going to like something before I try it. And I don't know if anybody really can. You can have an idea if it's something that isn't going to work for you, but like, why not try it? And then it's not peas. Like, I think Zach said, was it Zach that said Brussels sprouts and broccoli, or was it Phoenix? I don't know. I'm remembering somewhere on my screen.
Brussels sprouts and spinach. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So
Just
like,
at me next time.
but really having lab space, lab time, that the pressure is off. This isn't about having everyone have their biggest, brightest orgasm ever. This is like, let's get curious and see, does this make your, as I like to say, does this make your dick move? Under the context of Soft Cock Week, that's still pertinent. But does it make something happen in your body that feels good? And do you want more of it?
Okay, this brings back this memory. I had tied this guy up and we had a wonderful time, and he had just had an orgasm. And he was laying there, and it was like the afterglow, right? And I was untying him. He was spread eagle on the bed, and I took the rope off and I threw it on top of him, and his cock jumped. Does it make your cock react? And he's like, oh my God, because he had just come. It was quite funny.
And he got like rope bukkake, like
the rope just landed on him. There was something about the rope. The rope was pretty cool. And to kind of echo what Phoenix said, especially when you encounter someone who has a love of something and an interest, and that's their jam, that's their thing, their niche, and their thing they love to do or give or receive or whatever. That's, I think, a really valuable resource in a way to take advantage of, because the passion is there, the knowledge is often there as well.
We could talk about finding educators to help you through these things that you don't quite understand how to get started in, if y'all want. Like, we're all really great resource people here. Who here works in kink. I think we all can raise our hands, right? I just think when Ruby was saying that, I was thinking, what about the person that's been at home fantasizing about trying pegging or fantasizing about prostate play, and they haven't seemed to figure out how to talk to their partner about it, right? Like, I think Ruby
I
gets
got the answer for that one. I got the answer for that one.
Oh, okay. I'll let Ruby go ahead because she's clearly
she's the expert. Go, Ruby.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up.
But I want to hear what Zach had to say about that next, and then I'll tag in third.
I am not going to say anything. I'm just going to do a cut and paste because I deal with this all the time, and put it in the chat, and everyone else can share because I live with this every day. Okay, here we go. See if it'll take
Okay.
Yeah. There you
Yeah.
go.
So let me read this real quick.
Oh, for the people listening at home, Ruby is a queen of like auto like cut and paste stuff. Like she has her whole keyboard set up with auto replies. And so she has a couple of pegging podcasts for people that are trying to talk to their partners. That's what's in the chat for people at home. So Zach, what did you have for us that you can talk about?
Well, you brought up an interesting point. We're talking about, and this goes along with both, penises that aren't hard, relaxed dicks, and being open to prostate play and pegging is, at a certain point, it kind of requires an open-minded and willing to give partner. And I feel like we'd be remiss in having this conversation by not mentioning the fact that partners who are willing to do that, are a fucking gift, like literally. And forgive me, this is just the way my brain works. I was sitting here thinking, man, Ruby Ryder, of course, is this just, glorious sort of paragon, an absolute bright star in this firmament. How many prostates are better because of her existence, right? And that's literally like kind of the way I think. And so but thinking about like, the benefit that I've had from having partners that, like I said, before, were so very giving and loving and okay with it, and like didn't even blink, at the fact that, hey, I may show up for our time together and the penis may not work the way you are used to it working, because, I used to have the fucking penis of a 17-year-old boy that was ready to go in a fucking cold shower. It just would not turn off. And I'm now a middle-aged dude that's starting to have health problems because I'm old and haven't taken care of myself. But the reality is that partners that are willing to be supportive and whatnot, and like don't blink and say, hey, there's other ways to do things, but at the same time, I can understand, like we talked about before, cis men, because of toxic masculinity, have this almost paralyzing fear of not only considering it, but talking to their partner about it for the same reason. They're afraid they're going to somehow lose their manhood if they say, hey, I may like to try this, And let's be honest, the reason is because there have been people that have absolutely questioned their sexuality and their manhood just because, how dare you be interested in that? I flat out heard people use the phrase, if you've ever taken anything inside of, your anus besides a medical doctor, by definition, you're, I'm not going to use the F word, but so it's one of those things where I think this is me sort of, I guess, calling for us to throw out a lot of gratitude to people who are open to doing that, because this is something that is new, is not talked about very often. It's probably another frontier as far as sexual pleasure and sex education and normalization comes or goes. And you have to be really giving, because, I would imagine if you're dealing with a cis male and a cis female in a partnership, if cis men are not used to having conversations or talking about being penetrated or prostate play, I have to imagine it doesn't come up for cis women either, And so it's one of those things that, if literally what they're saying is, I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to explore this with you if that's what you're interested in. And that represents a very, very giving and open partner that is a fucking gem. I mean, that value cannot be measured. And I think it's important to recognize that. And, if anyone's listening, to just kind of say, as a cis man who's been in that position, thank you. Me, my prostate, and my not always hard dick are very, very grateful for your existence in this world. There, I said it.
Yeah, I think
Thanks,
one of the
Zach.
I think one of the reasons I try to be as open as I am, across the interwebs, is that hopefully it's like it spreads. You know what I mean? Like, if they can see all of us here, right? We all are really doing the work, trying to break down these normative barriers for people. And like that, I mean, there's times I worry about like by the way, kids, your mom's going to do soft cock week next week. Just want to prepare you for my social media. You know what I mean? Like there's some things that come with it. I don't know how they feel about their mom. I think they think I'm pretty cool, but
I
like,
still crack up thinking about you telling or you having to prepare your kids for the fact that, hey, mom is going to go out there on the internet and talk about how much she loves soft penises.
yeah,
Like it's going to be a thing that they just kind of have to deal with. So,
yeah.
and again,
I
kudos to
don't
them
ask.
because that cannot be easy, right? So,
I mean, my kids were homeschooled, so they've never had like the problem with like the kids at school knowing what their mom did. And also I've lived away from them location wise for a long time. So they didn't deal with, I can't imagine what it would be like if they were in like the public school system and mom was taking them and dropping them off at school and there was the snickering going on and whatnot. I've removed enough to where I don't think that they will run into any of that. And they're at the age now where I'm sure their friends are like, oh my God, if they heard me on something, they'd be like, your mom must be really cool. That must be great to have her as a mom, right? But where was I going with all this? Oh, the more people that can model talking openly, go home, start a conversation with your girlfriends, start a conversation with your guy friends, like just like somebody has to start the talk. And then like talk about like, I remember what came up in the call on Sunday was like, if we, I'm going to speak as a cis woman, if we are in a heterosexual relationship and our partner has an issue come up in the bedroom that night, how we respond matters, right? Saying, like we talked about on the call on Sunday, saying, oh, it's okay. The platitude thing doesn't really work. It doesn't land on a lot of people well, but let's just pivot. Like, that's not an issue. Let's go do this other thing. Like, how about I do this, or how about you do this to me? And like, just change directions. It doesn't have to become a funeral, a fucking funeral for the night, right? It's like,
I'm just hoping that less young vagina owners get on Reddit sex and say and post something along the lines of, so he wasn't hard and I'm wondering what that means. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much education that needs to be done. Holy crap. It means he wasn't hard. That's what it fucking means.
Definitely. And I just wanted to add just a couple thoughts to the partner conversation that Ruby shared the resource for and that Zach commented on, which is that I really think the value of professional help and professional tool use, assistance, demonstration and teaching for sexual things, for intimacy things, for relationship things cannot be overstated. It is just like getting a personal trainer for the gym, or hiring a private chef, or going to a restaurant, or etc. We use professionals. We go to knowledgeable doctors for our healthcare. All of those things, because there's a lot that goes into being highly trained and qualified that's incredibly valuable. And we have so much social stigma around it for sex and intimacy. And so I just, it's awesome to do these things with a partner. And also, whether you're partnered or not, professional support for working on these things and trying out these things can be so crucial. And, you know, everybody you see on your screen here is a professional that's available for some kind of support. And 3 of the 5 of us are touch professionals who can give you physical contact support for these things. Even though Michelle, Ruby, and Steph are all primarily on the West Coast, Michelle's still part-time East Coast for another few months, I believe that all of us travel for work. So I wanted to highlight that, particularly if you're someone who's thinking, well, that's cool. That's a great partner angle. I don't have a partner. What the hell am I supposed to do? So in addition to there being quite a few options for solo things you can try, and things that are helpful to get outside supports on, even if you do have a partner, I just wanted to highlight that you can have a partner to practice these things, regardless of if you are regularly partnered or not. So that's something that I really wanted to put in, because there's a lot of not just sex negativity, but toxicity to what Ruby said. I know I've worked with people who are incredibly impacted around either their own internalized view of sex work or sexual education, sexual supports, or by others, people who have been vetoed from sexual opportunities or relationship dynamics based on having paid for sex in the past. It's really so unfortunate that we don't have a larger, healthier conversation around that. And I think part of the conversation is talking about it, and hiring someone like a sexuality educator is just the same as hiring a personal trainer. And so I just wanted to throw that out there for folks.
Well,
Yeah.
quickly, I wanted to stand in solidarity with Steph because I do sex work as well. And I'm usually really open about that in my introductions because I'm totally out on my podcast and on my blog. And I was inspired to do that when Sesta Fosta was passed. And there was a South by Southwest, and I think Dan was on the panel, and they were asking, how do we take down Sesta Fosta? And Dan Savage said, more sex workers need to come out if they can, you know, with consideration of prosecution and persecution. And I thought, I'm such a privileged freaking sex worker that, yeah, I'm out. I'm absolutely out. And so firsthand, I've had those experiences of the worrying about no erection. I can watch my client try and clench those pelvic muscles and try and get erect. And I'm like, don't sit there and try and have an erection. We're having a good time here. You know, don't worry about it because this is all good. So you don't need to do that. So yeah, the one-on-one thing cannot be understated, and it's so valuable. And I just wanted to put a word and just I don't know, whatever you want to say, and anything positive out there regarding sex work, please decrim, please, like New Zealand. We really, 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 really need that.
Damn right.
Yeah, also a sex worker who has a lot of privilege and have gotten more and more out about what the nature of my work is, right? A lot of my work is you know, under the umbrella of legality because of surrogate partner therapy that is legal. A lot of the work that I do is not, and it's different work, but it's all valuable and needed for, I wish that more people could talk about the work they're doing. I feel pretty safe in talking about what I offer. A lot of that is my skin tone. I just want to name that here. I'm a middle, what's 47-year-old white cis woman who looks like a yoga pant wearing mom I walk into hotels and nobody questions me because I show up in my cuddle gear, right? No matter what I'm doing. And so I don't get questioned. I don't get harassed. And that's a lot. It's a lot of privilege. Something came to mind. And it was, I was thinking back on what Phoenix was saying, it's like if your sex changes, go in and take a new course on what to do with this new sex that you have. It's not like you're not in high school anymore. You know, we all need a little refresher course. I don't know how many, clients that haven't, I showed a clitoris. We all have the 3D clitoris models in the sex ed world. I showed that to a client the other day to say, look, things have changed since you were in school. It's not the little man in the boat anymore, right? We have a whole system here. And we all need these upgrades sometimes to be sex education has changed. And most of us didn't have any. So
Yeah, I was gonna say it actually exists in some places now. And I say that in Texan, so yeah, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everyone who is a panelist knows, but some of you watching might be horrified, hopefully horrified, to learn that medically and scientifically accurate sex ed is not a requirement in the majority of states. And certainly when you start to talk about countries outside of the United States, it's all over the map. So folks who are invested in and trained in comprehensive, factual, pleasure-oriented sex ed are really, these are some of the like key Google phrases you can use, or just talk to us here, are really something apart from what you've experienced before. And I'll also say, because I work with youth under the age of 18, as well as young and emerging adults and adults, you know, after that pivotal brain development moment of 25 or so, there are different rules for doing this work with minors than there are for adults. So even if you had really comprehensive sex ed and you feel good about it, it's important to know that the full range of sexual expression and diversity in terms of education and modeling and that kind of thing is not available to minors legally and ethically in some situations. So that's something important. And I also work with a fair number of parents who maybe they feel great about their sexual universe and their own lived sex life, but once they start having to talk to their teenagers about things like masturbation or first times or things like that, they're at a loss. And parents have been muddling through and figuring this out for forever. And you don't have to muddle through.
Yeah,
I
you
muddled through
mentioned.
with my daughter. Absolutely. Go ahead, Zach.
No, I was going to say that Phoenix had mentioned, you know, that in the majority of states, there's no requirement for sex education to be medically accurate. And when I started this doing consent education 5-6 years ago, I literally just started by, you know, looking up sex education and consent, you know, just trying to see what was out there, and found out that the only thing I could find in the exhaustive internet search that I did was where you can see sex education and consent mentioned, you know, within the same paragraph, was when you, in states where you had to get parental consent to teach sex education to the children. That not only was sex education so wide, so varied in every single state, I think none of them talked about pleasure at all, and only 2 at the time ever mentioned consent. One of them was California, and I forget the other one. I think it was Oregon. Don't quote me on that one, though. So
yeah, it's definitely not Washington. As the parent of a teenager, my youngest teenager just turned 18, and I'm going to brag about my parenting win, but it also tells you something about the state. When my youngest, he's also autistic, right? And he comes up to me after his 18th birthday, because I think he knew. He goes, "Dad, what's a clitoris?" Yeah. I had a parenting win because I got to sit down and explain and go through vulvas and everything else, because it's just a crap they don't, even in a blue state like Washington, they don't talk about it. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I remember sitting in my he's 21 now, but when he was in 5th grade, I sat in his sex ed class because I have 2 autistic boys. And I'm like, oh, I want to make sure he processes these things right. And so you have these children coloring genitals in purples and greens and browns, and it's like, oh my God, it looks like it's going to fall off. Don't teach him that. So there's my parenting win, and also the reflection of the Washington State sex ed system. But I want to bring up real quick that as a sex worker moving into education, that one of the things we have to do is dispel the myths that are out there. And someone made a comment early in this Zoom call about, well, they use fluffers. That's a myth. They don't do that. I'd be happy to explain how people stay erect during porn and how painful it is. it's all an illusion. It's fantasy out there, which is why I was reliant to bring it back to working with your partner, working in a safe environment to learn all these things, because what's out there isn't real. And I want to talk about how porn performers stay hard, and I don't want to talk about it because it's just so, it's just, and one of the people I'm working with, I did a promotional with Rob the Rocket, and we are going to shoot material that specifically has soft cocks in it. There isn't any. I looked.
That is so good.
I looked. There isn't any. And Ruby
There
was
is
talking-
some soft cock porn. I'm sorry. I just want to throw that out there for when
Oh.
people take to the internet off this, which I accidentally found when I was looking for a dick gallery.
I will stand corrected, because yes, it is out there. What I should have caveated with is this like cis het straight. That's what I was trying to get at. And Ruby mentioned something, how the first time you get in there and you touch the doorbell and it short circuits everything. It's because it's new sensation, and we get into vagus nerve, which we talked about earlier, and everything else. But us as educators, to get this out there, this is the point that is so hard to drive home. There's a lot of puns in there I didn't even realize. And I feel happy here to be with this group of people, and also the people that are watching. It's like, don't believe the hype. Don't believe what you see in porn. Go to an educator. Sex work is work. We're doing this for a reason, because we know what the hell we're doing, and we geek out on it. I think all of us here are sex geeks, because we want to know how bodies work and how the nerve endings stretch. And if I touch this on this one person, it makes the pinky move like this. It's intriguing to us. Trust but verify. So I just want to put that out there. Michelle wants something.
Phoenix mentioned we had a conversation the other day, Jen, I think it was in a planning meeting with Zach and Jojo Bear, about trying to find a penis gallery. And I mentioned a book, and I just pulled it off my shelf to look at it. But this book, Manhood, the Bare Reality, is a book full of penises, and it looks like all soft penises, and stories of the people's relationship with their cock. So I know I've let a client borrow this from me, and he came back and he was like, can we have a celebration for my penis today? Because I just have a new appreciation for it, because reading this just helped him appreciate what he has. And I want everyone to have a moment like that, whether it's about your penis or about your vulva, about your body, about, anything. Like an appreciation is a big win.
Would you mind plugging the author real quick?
Yeah, the author is Laura Dodsworth. Yeah, there's a whole series. They do, there's a breast one, and there is a
vulva one.
Yeah, a vulva one. Oh, there's one, yeah. Womanhood, and I don't know. I don't know what they're called, but it's a little gendery, but whatever. They are, from what I understand from my colleagues, they are really inclusive books, even though the titles are a little,
And also, I invite folks, as the one of the, actually, I don't know how other they thems in the room might identify gender type wise, but as a gender queer person in the room, or the gender queer person in the room, I'll say, just like if you're a kinky person using a vanilla resource, or a polyamorous person using a monogamous resource, or vice versa. Similarly, it's unfortunate that for those folks who aren't cis, that a lot of these kinds of resources are very cis focused, and developing the skill of adapting them, pulling out what is useful for you and adapting them is something that is also a really great skill to practice. And so even if they weren't that inclusive, so long as you're not supporting someone who's perpetuating hate speech by purchasing the product, looking at you, J.K. Rowling, these are images the images are still very useful, whatever your gender is. So I just wanted to plug that angle as well.
That reminds me of the whole languaging for this week of Cock Week, right? Something that's really important to me is that it be accessible to everyone. And one of the things you'll find if you dig around on the website is that I've asked the people that want to like coordinate events for this or whatnot to use the language that fits their audience, right? Soft cock does not work for everyone. And it's important. I tried to vary my languaging and my promotion of the different events during the week. It's take like Phoenix said, take what works for you and leave the rest and modify. And I think that's the whole theme of soft cock, right? Modify. Do something
And
different.
for those who don't fit into the whole typical, I can't tell you how valuable it has been in my evolution as a sex educator to have people who don't fit into that mold come to me and very gently say to me, and by this, I do not mean to imply that it is the responsibility of any queer person to come up and correct anyone who's doing it wrong, so to speak. But I've had people come up to me and say, you know, this is kind of my reality and you are teaching to this. And yet I am learning from you and maybe you should think about this. Wow, that has helped me so much, which is why now when I teach, it's receivers and givers. You know, it's not men and women, it's receivers and givers. And that's so, so important. And a quick thing about back on sex education, because this is also important too. And unfortunately, we're so behind on sex education that we're not anywhere near inclusive enough with the queers. Queer identifying and all of the people who don't fit the typical, we're not even doing typical well. We need comprehensive, accurate, pleasure-based, and someone's already mentioned this, the whole pleasure-based, but another thing I found on Reddit one time that really hit me deeply was somebody asked the question, okay, so where you are now, if you could go back and talk to your younger self about sexuality, what would you tell that person, right? It was a great question. And this vagina owner person said, well, I mean, I was taught about how not to get pregnant. I was taught about how not to catch diseases. I was taught how to say no. And those were all really valuable things. But no one ever taught me about the concept of an enthusiastic yes. Wow, that was just so intense. And it's so true. And I fumbled along as a parent because that was at the very beginning of me becoming Ruby Ryder. I gave her a book. I didn't know how to talk to her, I had no model. But the book I gave her is Sex is Fun. And it's a graphic novel and it's really well done and it's really inclusive of all kinds of different pairings of people. And now I do wish I could go back and do it again because now I can talk about sex in my sleep. But yeah, it's so important because if you're a parent and you are deciding that, okay, you can leave all this to the schools. Oh, hell no. I mean, sure, in California, we teach about consent. That's by law, which is awesome. At the same time, they just know none of it is pleasure-based. None of it that I am aware of through any educational, like public education is pleasure-based. And by the way, I pulled it out. Here's the 3D model. There it is. Just in case you guys wanted to see it, I have it right here on my desk, right?
One of my fave colors too. So
I was
solid.
gonna say, I'm not surprised it's purple. I mean, I like purple clearly, but Ruby also definitely a purple person. Mine glows in the dark. My clitoris. I call it an alien clitoris. It was a
I'm
gift.
sorry, you just said your clitoris glows in the dark.
Not
and
mine personally.
my mind is
but
going. I look. I promise I'm an adult, but I've been drinking. So
it's so you can find it in the dark, Zach.
I was just thinking what a great adaptation that would be
I
for
can
low
find
light
a
settings.
clitoris unconscious. I know because I've done it. So thank you, Ruby, so much for what you said. Yeah, the education part. God, I cannot tell you. Speaking as a big Black sex educator and therapist and consultant, who I'm a sex and consent educator who lives in Texas. I keep saying that, but it's important. You know, there are literally people here that are still talking to their kids about the fucking stork. Like, I cannot tell you the absolute just damaging, atrocious shit I have heard when it comes from people, you know, and what they've gotten as far as sex education. Now, me, for my part, I'm not going to claim that my parents were remotely progressive, but my mom tried. I mean, she was raising 3 young Black men in, you know, Texas in the 80s and 90s. So my sex education was my devoutly Catholic mother dropping a 3-pack of condoms on the bed and saying, "Don't be stupid." That was literally it. That was the whole fucking thing. But again, I was a studious young perv and I went and looked up shit. But I realized not everybody's going to do that. So the education piece is so very fucking important. And I'm so glad you used enthusiastic consent. It's literally one of my pillars of consent. So thank you for that, because it's so fucking critical. And the fact that somehow people call anything sex education and never even mention consent, let alone enthusiastic, it is probably, I think, one of the greatest crimes to humanity that has happened, and continues to happen. Let's be honest, it really does. So yeah, that's just something that's critically important. Like I was talking about earlier with all the normalizing of stuff and just understanding there are so many options. Sexuality is a wide universe of opportunity and choices and potential, and it is supposed to be very enjoyable and definitely enhance life. I think everyone here on this panel, we all engage in this in one way or another because we want people to enjoy and have enhanced lives of sexuality and connection and intimacy and all that other stuff. But, you know, ignorance is so fucking damaging in every aspect of human endeavor, particularly when it comes to sexuality and pleasure, you know, and which is why, again, I'm grateful to Michelle for coming up with, you know, this concept of Soft Cock Week, because this is the first time I've ever engaged in something like this. And this is something that the conversation that really needs to happen a whole lot more. So definitely annually, but and in so many other places. And I'm just glad to be able to engage with some amazing people talking about soft penises for the better part of a week. Again, living in Texas, where I used to sell sex toys and it was fucking illegal to have more than 3 dildos in your car. So, I mean, I'm not kidding. That was actually a law. So actually, I think it still is now that I think about it. They just don't enforce it because cops get embarrassed when you wave a dildo at them. I know this from personal experience.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. Actually, I've heard that on the border here. Like one of my friends was like stop with Border Patrol or whatever, and they had like rope and dildos and all this stuff in their car, and the cops were like, "I don't really want to know what all this is about." But yeah.
No, it's just that's how you beat back the power. You kind of wave a couple dildos at them and just dare them to ask, because they're more embarrassed than you are. But you know, they know that they think there's something against the law here. Like, sure, go ahead and look up the dildo law. I'll wait, and they won't. So yeah.
I've heard that about being in an airport and they're like opening up your luggage and you become sex educator. You're like, oh yeah, so you want to know about this vibrator here does this and it's really good for that. And you
That's really fun, but I will say there's also a negative pushback on these sometimes. I've actually missed a flight before because of people being really uncomfortable around this topic. And certainly I would just caution folks to like keep in mind how much space you want to give this. But something separate from that, just because consent came up a few times and we are talking about sex a lot. And penises are not just for sex, just like vaginas are not just for sex. Just like a lot of this information is relevant for folks who are not sexual. So in case we have any asexuals listening, I just wanted to share, just take a little plug moment to say that understanding consent applies in all areas of life, and understanding our bodies better applies in all areas of life. And I particularly want to plug Zach as a consent focused educator who I absolutely love the consent workshops of. I was privileged to be in one not long after we met. And I thought it was a cool and interesting fellow educator, helping professional type. But then I saw this consent class and I was like, who is this guy? This is amazing. We definitely have to be friends. We're going to be friends. He doesn't know it yet, but we will. And it wasn't a stalker thing because now here we are. So I'll plug that. And I also want to plug that there are a number, like a huge number of different models of consent. And playing around with those, this is something I'm deeply nerdy about. And I did a podcast with Dr. Carolyn West, who runs the Glow West podcast, which is an Irish sexual health podcast that has international listenership. It's really great, about some of the different models of consent. But I just want to plug that there are a lot of different options to play with. And because so much of our understanding exists in language, we literally don't form memories until we start to have more words to be able to describe and storytell to ourselves about that. That's why age 3 is a very common, very first memory, and many people don't have additional memories until much, much later. Playing with the different models of consent and talking about it is crucial. And this is something I am, well, I know demonstrably that I can talk for at least 3 hours about. So I just wanted to put that plug in there.
Great. You know, we're coming up on the end of the call today. I am like, kind of like, I wish I could do this with a group of sex geeks like all the time, because this is really fun. And I don't know how other people feel about it. I don't really care because I'm having a great time.
I feel like a monthly Zoom call is in order, and we should totally, or podcast. That's a good idea. You see, I've got my podcast mic and headsets. I'm ready to
You
roll.
sound
So
great. I might have to upgrade my life. But
that's what this thing is for. Yeah, that is literally so, because I have conversations, and because I have partners who are long distance, I have virtual dates, and so it's like, hey babe, how you doing tonight? How's it going?
that is vibrating
a
me to
long
my
week, but-
core.
It's like setting up the fancy webcam for your sexting plan. I love that. I mean, now that Michelle has the webinar Zoom package,
I have
we
only
could,
got this for a month.
oh,
This is-
okay. Anyone who has the webinar Zoom package who'd like to contribute that, or Zach, if you are
If we had a
interested in a
sponsor.
recurring Angry Black Man monthly sex dive moment, I would love
We
to
can do the
regularly get
podcast,
together
or
for this kind of thing.
I've got I do a lot of Google Meets with my consulting work, and so I can get, I think, as many as 50 to 100 people in there. So if there's anyone that wants to just hang out and talk about sex geek shit, I will do a sex geek hangout, and we'll just pick a fucking, now I've got to find my Google Calendar, because my life doesn't exist without Google Calendar, and find a spot to have a 2 to 3 hour conversation. But I'm warning anyone who comes, it'll probably be me sitting here drinking and having a cigar and talking about stuff. So, because that's when I'm comfortable.
Please invite us. I'm totally into that.
Yeah.
You know what?
I
I'll
would-
let you know. Let's chat offline, because I'm loving this idea. The more and more I spit words out of my mouth. So
Yeah.
So
we've
you
been talking
guys,
about soft cock all year.
I actually made a quiz, which I would love to read out loud. It's a multiple choice for this event, which I couldn't
Ooh.
share on the thing itself. The first question is, what month is National Erectile Dysfunction Month?
Throw it in the chat. Throw it in the chat.
It's November, Michelle. You chose an amazing.
Oh,
I swear to God, I believe they call it National Impotence Awareness originally, but yes.
that makes sense, because it's Movember, so that makes sense. Yeah.
They threw all the
Yeah.
dick stuff in November, because that's why I got the handlebars
Right?
this month.
there's dick stuff in October.
Okay,
Well,
so
yeah, I know October is always breast cancer, and so they do cancers that affect men. And I watch a lot of hockey, so they've all got mustaches right now. By the way, I am never doing No Nut November, and I'm never not shaving my head.
So will you
just
do
so we-
Locktober?
Tell me more, but yes.
Lock like a cock cage, lock you up for October,
just for a month.
or even for a day. I
I've
mean,
got multiple partners, and I masturbate. I don't know about lock. I truthfully, I would rather do planks. I'm just saying.
And that's part of consent, right? If you're someone who's
Yeah.
partnered and sexual, and you're making sexual choices around say not nutting for an entire month, that's absolutely valid for you to make as a choice. And you might find more relationship success if you include your partners in the conversation around that. I
Yeah,
said it in the chat, but I just want to highlight Kai or Kay, I'm sorry, I'm not certain how to pronounce your name, for like some hilarious chat comments. So I encourage
Yes.
you all to scroll through that. But the recommendation for Zach was nonstop nut November.
Yeah, well, no,
Thank
I've heard a
Which-
bunch of different recommendations for that. And someone, I was in a group one where, and somebody said, "Hey, is anyone doing No Nut November?" And I was like, "No, that's what I've got for No Nut November. No, that will not happen." First of all, I don't pay
also
that much attention.
November.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's just
Second question. What year did the first drug to treat erectile dysfunction, Viagra, hit the market? 1998, 1985, 1969, 2005.
It was 98.
Yes, it was, sir. You win. Okay.
I was just
was-
thinking of Bob Dole, like.
You can
What
collect
year-
your raffle prize at the end.
What year? I don't know what people win. I'm just doing this. What year was testosterone discovered? 1969, 1950, 1935, 1998.
35.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking 35.
Which of these factors affect erectile dysfunction? Choose all that apply. Weight, extroverted, introverted personality, smoking, drinking alcohol, all of the above.
All of the above.
Oh,
Except extroverted, introverted personality does not apply.
I
All the
will
others do. I snuck it in there. I cheated. Okay.
I
here's
will
the-
say that for sex, group sex occasions, and sex parties or swingers clubs or things like that, folks often find that the busy social environment does have an impact. So that's my
This is
counter argument to that
true.
one.
This is
I am-
true.
I gotta chime in and speaking as a slutty introvert myself. I am so glad to hear that that's not the case, because I am a ridiculously horny perv who, if I were more extroverted, would be even more slutty. But I've got enough partners, and I'm lucky a lot of them pursued me. So yeah, there you go.
Which of these statements is true? Pills are the only way to treat ED. ED can affect all ages. ED can be treated by drinking more water. ED is a normal part of growing older, and penis owners just have to learn to live with it. All ages, clearly, right?
Yeah. hmm
deal with
So,
it.
based on my work, I will say that. I think that's something we don't talk about, right? Like, I think so many times I get a client that thinks they must be the only one that's having issues like in their late 20s and their 30s. Like, no, it happens to everyone.
Which of these factors can affect erectile dysfunction? Anxiety, past sexual trauma, depression, all of the above.
All the above.
All the above. Yep. The last one. This is not endless, you guys. What percentage of penis owners in the United States are affected by erectile dysfunction? 63%, 25%, 38%, 52%.
63.
52.
Yeah, I was thinking 52.
52. Yeah.
Okay, our time is wrapping. I want everybody to go around real quick, say where people can find you, and then we're going to cut this off. So I'm going to go backwards. Phoenix, where can they find you?
You can find me at phoenixmandel.com and on most social media platforms, although they're not very active yet. That is one of my New Year's resolutions.
Wonderful. And Zach, where can they find you?
For right now, you can find me on Twitter. It's at @black_sex_geek. You have to use underscore or you will get Ruby Johnson. And I will also put my Instagram in the chat real quick, just in case, Twitter explodes and falls off the face of the fucking planet in the next 48 hours.
It'll all go out in a follow. It'll be in the show notes, as they say. Steph, where can they find you?
I am located in, I put in the chat, Western Washington, Puget Sound area. You can reach me at my email at steph.takaya@proton.me, or just come out to my Twitter with Stefan Takaya.
Wonderful. And Ruby, where can they find you? Oh, you're muted. Had been at the end of the show, guys.
I'm going to give you 3 different websites: peggingparadise.com, pegging101.com, and my webinar platform, theartofpegging.com. From there, you'll be able to find all my social media platforms, blog, podcasts, everything.
Wonderful. I'm Michelle Renee. You can find me at meetmichellerenee.com. I'm on social media at meetmichellerenee. Except for Twitter, I'm still the Trojan kitten because it's too cute not to keep it. Anyways, it was a pleasure having everybody here. Thank you guys so much. I can't wait to have you all back next year and watch how this grows. Haha. All right, everybody. I hope you have a great night. Check out the merch. We hope
All
to see
the
you again
puns,
soon.
all the penis puns.
All the
I'm
puns
telling
all
you.
the time. Yeah.
All
yeah.
the puns.
Mwah, everyone, have a good night.
Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you, Michelle. Thank you, everybody who joined as a panelist and as a listener.